Thank you very much. Let's go right to, they just left the Senate lunch, which they do on Tuesdays. Talking about the debt ceiling here. Pretty important. Let's listen to this. Senator John Thune and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Watch.
Increase. And the Committee for Responsible Budget tells us that out of every dollar of the debt for the next 10 years, 50 cents out of every dollar of the debt will be used for nothing more than to pay interest on the debt. This has got to be dealt with. Senator Schumer has said that, he wants to put there's votes for a clean debt limit. I don't know where he's getting his information, because there aren't the votes for a clean debt limit. What we do know is that in 7 of the last 10 negotiations on the debt limit, there have been budgetary reforms. So 70% of the time the debt limit gets lifted, there has been a discussion, conversation around, and a negotiation about budgetary and policy reforms. That's what needs to happen this time. And that's supported by the American people. Polls show that 65% of the American people believe that you shouldn't raise the debt limit without doing something about the debt. And so that's where the American people are, and clearly that's where we are. And I just hope that in the next few days, hopefully by the time when this meeting happens on May 9th, we can see serious and real progress, or else the administration will be the first administration ever to have to deal with a default on the debt, because a clean debt limit is not going to happen. And I think they need to understand that, get serious about sitting down at the table. And if the X date actually is June 1, that brings an additional sense of urgency to this situation. We need to get there, and hopefully the administration will finally pick up the ball and start going to work and addressing this important issue.
Joe Biden is playing Russian roulette, as well as the Democrats, with our Americans' economy. It's dangerous, it's reckless. The president and the Democrats are fear-mongering, threatening to default on the debt. They believe it's okay to continue to borrow and spend money we don't have, and the American people deserve better. This spending binge that the Democrats have been on the last 2 years has brought us record high inflation, 40-year high inflation, and a debt of over $31 trillion. As a result, 2/3 of Americans say if you're going to raise the debt ceiling, you need to tie it to some reforms in spending. That's what American families have to do if, for one reason or another, they max out their credit cards. And the Republicans in the House of Representatives have done just that in terms of coming forward with reforms that are responsible, that address the issue. And you take a look at what they've included in there, things like clawing back unused COVID money. Of course, that's very popular with the American people. Tying work for able-bodied American adults who don't have children, tying that to welfare. Again, the American public agrees. So it's time for President Biden to take his head out of the sand and sit down and talk and negotiate with Speaker McCarthy. Maybe the president believes that there's no cutting to be done. There's no waste, fraud, or abuse in government. Well, there's clearly areas where we can do reforms. They're needed, to the point that the 8 times that reforms have been done tied to a raising of the debt ceiling, well, Joe Biden was either in Congress or as the Vice President of the United States. He's been for 6 of the 8. So it is time for Joe Biden to end this debt ceiling madness.
It is very much time for Joe Biden.
Very interesting. This is one of the more interesting debt ceiling fights that we've had. And the reason for that is because Kevin McCarthy, who now leads a Republican majority House of Representatives, has said that he will not raise the debt ceiling this time without some spending cuts, about a 20% cut in non-discretionary, non-defense spending. And as Senator Thune pointed out, for the course of our history, 70% of the time that we've raised the debt ceiling, there have been cuts that went along with it. under the belief that you can't just keep raising how much money you're going to borrow and never find anywhere to make some cuts and show some fiscal responsibility. So David Asman is going to join us. I should also mention, because this is also news, Senator McConnell spoke right before we cut to this. He will be at that meeting of the 4 leaders of Congress with President Biden. When that happens a week from today, he will be at that meeting. So we found that out just moments ago as well. Charlie Gasparino is here and David Asman. They both join us later this hour with their take on this. And you see Senator Joni Ernst talking now from Iowa, which we'll continue to monitor.